I am so excited about creating this analysis for you guys. Zendaya, the woman that can do no wrong in terms of style and personal presentation, the perfect model for the Gen Z generation, is getting married to Spider-Man. But what if I told you that they are incredibly similar and that breaking down their birth charts points in a really interesting direction related to the long-term potential of their relationship? Hey Astrofiends, welcome to the Spiritual Cosmos. I'm Alexandra Macht. I'm a certified astrologer and lover of all things celebrity related. I am obsessed with reading news media pieces and looking into the astrological birth charts of famous people. And if you are one too, then welcome. Include yourself in my family. Hit that subscribe button. Like this video as well. It really helps me because it takes me such a long time to prepare for these videos and then to edit them. So I do appreciate some sort of positive form of energy exchange. Comment as well down below. I love to read your comments, and as you've seen from my previous Synastry analysis, I do listen to your comments and I appreciate constructive feedback in order to improve the content that I'm presenting here for you guys. In this clip today, I'm going to be breaking down the birth chart of Zendaya, or Zendaya. I've noticed that people tend to pronounce her name in two very different words. I'm going to pronounce it as I feel more comfortable doing it because I am Romanian. I am not an English native speaker. Zendaya feels more natural when I say it, but maybe if you're American, you feel more comfortable pronouncing it as Zendaya. To each their own. The girl is flawless. She is perfect. She doesn't need us to actually pronounce her name perfectly as well. She can pronounce her name for herself well, and that's enough for me. In addition to looking at the birth chart of Zendaya, I'm also going to be looking at the birth chart of her fiancé, the English actor Tom Holland. And in the final portion of this video, I'm going to look at summary points taken from their Synastry chart. The Synastry chart shows the energies that exist between them at this point in time in the present, and then I will be using my analytical skills and my intuitive knowledge to predict what their relationship may actually look like 2 or 3 years from now and whether their marriage may be successful or not. I do have some reticence related to this couple. They do look incredibly adorable together, and I know that a lot of people are really pining for them or simping for them, but I don't know, my heart is holding back from this connection a little bit based on what I have noticed in their astrological birth charts. So I won't keep you waiting. In the following, you will see the charts and you will also see some images of them, and I will guide you alone related to some of the interesting things I have noticed. I'm sure that everybody knows by now that Zendaya is a famous sun in Virgo. She mentioned this a couple of times in interviews where she was completely impressed to find out that she shares the same sun sign as Beyoncé, another cultural icon of our generation. The thing that makes her different from other Virgo suns is the fact that she has her sun in the 7th house. The 7th house is naturally ruled by the sign Libra, so that means that she is a Virgo with some Libra traits. She borrows from this Aries sign her beauty and a deep sense of justice. Also a focus on relationships and negotiating basically the relationships that she has with other people around her. Zendaya's Mercury is placed in the spooky 8th house, and it is conjunct the part of fortune, a very lucky point. It is also conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer archetype, and also her North Node in Libra. This is basically a point that shows what she is growing into in this lifetime. That is her zone of discomfort, but it is her biggest growth zone in this lifetime. I would interpret this as she is learning how to think before she speaks, how to measure her words, and she's learning how to control her outputs, verbal outputs especially, in order to achieve maximum effect on other people, in order to somehow hold power over them. Because the 8th house is not only the house of the occult, the house that is hidden from the ascendant, it is also the house of power, trust, and deep healing that transforms you. This being said, speaking to her could feel quite painful and filled with limits and responsibilities, as she may be risking her career, public image, and all in all her likability based on saying something wrong. So I don't think it's a coincidence that her mother is an educator, as this fits very well with this placement. Logical learning meant to overcome ancestral karma, or processing the unknown through a highly logical mindset, are all things that feed into this Mercury in the 8th house conjunct part of Fortune, Chiron, and the North Node. It's also interesting that she was born mixed race, and this pendulum between being black or being white and not really fitting into either groups in society is also connected to this North Node in the 8th house destiny. As you know, Libra needs to balance sides. So it's almost as if society will always want her to choose a side and be extreme in her loyalty to one group, the 8th house. But Libra there means that she needs to strike a balanced approach to any extreme issues. She needs to see beyond polarities and strike compromises. If she is to preserve her inner calm and mental health, she needs to find always the middle ground, the middle way. Not only is Zendaya a Virgo sun, but to add to this Virgoan energy, her Mars and Venus, which are perfectly conjunct, are also placed in the house traditionally ruled by the sign of Virgo, this being the 6th house of the zodiac, the place of everyday routines, service work, health, and schedules. Ancient astrologers assigned this house to witches and witchcraft and their familiars, or pets with animal spirit properties. And this is why this house is sometimes described by modern astrologers as the house of your pets. In addition, as her Mars and Venus in Cancer are perfectly conjunct, this adds to her capacity to attract romantic and sexual attention from a variety of people. And she may also find it hard to separate lust from love and understand the many nuances of romance that can exist between people. While her Venus is quite comfy and sweet in the family-oriented sign of Cancer, her Mars is not that well placed because a moon aspecting Mars placement can actually make someone easily angered, emotionally volatile, moody, and unpredictable in their actions. Zendaya could either have a lot of energy one moment and too little of it the next. Just like the phases of the moon, the element that rules Cancer, she can wax and wane in terms of physical strength, energy, and vitality. Her energy could be top-notch during a full moon and quite exaggerated, and it could be very low during a balsamic moon phase as it moves into a new moon phase. And since we are still on the subject of the moon, let's look at her moon. Her moon is placed in Taurus in the 3rd house. This is a very lucky placement and one which underlines the Mercurian energy that her sun in Virgo exudes, because the 3rd house is the place in everyone's charts that is naturally ruled by Gemini and by Mercury's energy. So having her moon, her seat of emotions and unconscious energies, in the house of the mind, also ruled by Mercury, makes her a little bit of a double Mercurian. So this tells me that she tends to intellectualize her emotions. She likes to keep a cool, calm head in any situation. She feels her emotions mostly through her body and her senses, and listening to her body can help her learn a lot about who she is and what she desires. Zendaya puts a lot of steady effort in maintaining her viewpoints, and she can be quite stubborn in terms of the mindset that she adopts and her inherited values, basically what she learned from her family while she was growing up. Having a moon in Taurus shows someone who had a very traditional upbringing, and the moon being placed in the house of learning, well, we can see here a clear link to the mother as her educator, especially since the 3rd house by extension rules over our environments and governs over our neighbors, siblings, local community, and primary schooling. On a more controversial level, I can also see that if Zendaya has to endure extensive diets to maintain her figure for work, as her Saturn in the 2nd house tells me is the case, she actually can suffer a lot from not being able to eat well and as much as she would like. I do remember that she actually mentioned in an interview that what she likes to do on a holiday is to walk and eat. It's the simple things in life, and Zendaya is here all for them. Her Saturn retrograde is in Aries in the 2nd house, and it conjuncts her South Node in Aries. The South Node usually shows our comfort zone, what we come well equipped with from another past life. Having Saturn conjunct your comfort zone tells me that you don't really have comfort in this lifetime. You're constantly on the go. You're constantly alert. You constantly feel the need to take on responsibility. It comes naturally to you. So she's a highly responsible, organized, and ordered individual. But there is some heavy karma here connected to her capacity to be herself, to be passionate, to own her own money, and have her own material possessions, especially those that she acquires through her own efforts and through her own paid work. On a deep level, this is about feeling safe in her body and in the world, and I believe that being mixed race in a place that tends to constantly make her aware of this fact, and also being a woman, is adding to her sense of insecurity and anxiety connected to earning a lot of money and being financially powerful, and this in turn affects her sense of worth. Her Saturn is sitting across from her natal Mercury, and I can also see that her Jupiter retrograde in Capricorn in the 11th house is sitting in tension with her Mercury. This means that she has to be very careful related to what she says and in how she says it. She really needs to put effort into her thoughts before she gives a speech or offers her opinion or is critical of something. She's learning in this lifetime how to debate, how to negotiate, and how to find compromises through communicating with other people. She's learning as well how to consider the opinions of others, not only her own. Again, I guess you can see how these aspects are helping Zendaya fulfill her peacekeeping and often people-pleasing North Node in Libra, and as an opposite, it is tempering down any selfish or impulsive South Node in Aries tendencies. Zendaya's ascendant is in Aquarius. This is why she comes across as slightly emotionally detached, cool, a trendsetter for sure, an avant-gardist in terms of her style and fashion. She is tall, symmetrical, and has a light and airy kind of energy, which she put to excellent use, in my personal opinion, in her role in Challengers, where the game of tennis fits her ascendant energy so well. But the fascinating aspect is that her Uranus retrograde and domicile in the sign of Aquarius is working at its finest, and it is also loosely conjunct her ascendant, amplifying her natural Aquarian energy. So this means that Zendaya will continue to surprise the public, not only with her style and image, but also with the projects she will participate in. In the next 2 decades, she will undergo a deep change in her public image, as Pluto is crossing over her ascendant, and it will change her physical body, her public role, and her personal relationships. Having Pluto currently conjunct Uranus will lead to a massive breakthrough and big change. So I'm looking forward to see if she is going to get married and become a mother soon, because, you know, not all changes in life have to be bad or traumatic. They can be filled with purpose and exhilarating. I am just hoping she won't share with us some shocking health-related news, because I see that Pluto in transit will square her natal Mars and Venus in Cancer, which sit in the house of health and work, the 6th house. So fingers crossed, she will take really good care of her health. Zendaya's Neptune is retrograde and placed in a house it loves to be in, the creative and giving 12th house, although placed in earthy Capricorn. So she may have hidden talents and exquisite dreams, in addition with a strong capacity to connect with the divine, but she will have to put work and effort in order to access these ethereal gifts. A mentor or an elderly father figure could help her a lot in this process. The good part is that she will always have the support of the public and of the online community and other elite and specialized work groups that will always welcome her in mostly positive ways. She is loved by her coworkers and helped a lot by them. She's given lucky breaks through her associations with collaborators. She easily learns and she can communicate knowledge and fits well within her coworkers' groups. All of these things are speaking to me from the position of having Jupiter in the 11th house. Being in Capricorn, her Jupiter releases her good luck a little bit slower than with other signs. But when she gets a bout of good luck, it tends to bring her consistent wealth. Overall, having a Jupiter in Capricorn means that she is getting good work opportunities. She tends to attract money towards her, even if it comes with certain responsibilities and duties attached to it. But she is naturally lucky in anything related to teamwork and collaborations, professional collaborations especially. She feels a sense of purpose and connection to those around her, and this is the big blessing of Jupiter in the 11th house, a house that many ancient astrologers consider to be an incredibly powerful and optimistic and life-giving house. She also is quite popular on the online community, influencing a community of souls. Usually having Jupiter in either the 11th or the 9th house is a very good indicator that we are dealing with a naturally lucky person, someone favored by the stars or the gods, whatever floats your boat. Finally, I need to say that Zendaya's midheaven is in the sign of Scorpio. That is a really powerful placement. She leaves a long-lasting mark on her generation. Not only that, but the scorpionic traits are enhanced by the fact that Pluto in Sagittarius is nearby her midheaven. This will ensure that her public image will stay powerful and transformational. In a way, she defines her generation. Through her looks, she has this iconic power over the public. She seems down to earth and yet mysterious and unapproachable. She defines the so-called Gen Z generation, although on a spiritual level, I call this my generation of oracles due to the prophesizing tendencies of the sign of Sagittarius and the transformational potential of Pluto, amping up any gifts of foresight, any big picture thinking, and any wisdom that these yet to have developed ripe philosophers will encounter throughout their lives. But more on that in a separate clip. To begin with, I need to tell you that Tom's chart is very similar to Zendaya's, which makes my work a little bit easier in its interpretation, but it does somehow complicate their bond. After looking at their charts in depth, I can safely say that if ever were two people meant to be twin flames in the typical description of what a twin flame is, then these are Tom and Zendaya. And no, these are not Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly, although that couple likes to talk a lot about how they are each other's twin flames, and even though they are both two suns in Taurus, they are not really twin flames. A twin flame is basically an individual that is you in a different body. So having an interaction with that person feels almost like you are talking to yourself, like you have your twin, but it is a romantic twin, not a family twin, a twin that you can make love to, for example. And when you do that, you feel as if you become this whole person. The concept of twin flames comes from Plato, the idea of a soul being separated in two by the gods, and thereby, in order to feel whole again, the soul is seeking its counterpart. But I'm not going to dive deeply into a description of what twin flames are. I just wanted to give you guys a refresher in case this is the first time you hear the term. It is a spiritual concept. A lot of tarot readers and astrologers have been describing twin flame relationships, and I just felt the need to mention it here because it is significant. I mean, so far, I haven't seen the chart of two people that are this similar. It's also because they are born close in time, so this obviously influences their natal placements. There are, however, a couple of things that don't match between Tom and Zendaya, just enough to keep their connection interesting. So Tom is, and here's a controversial opinion, sadly a sun in Gemini. And I say sadly because Gemini men in general tend to irritate a lot of people, much like Piscean men. But what makes Tom slightly different than the average Geminian is that he has his sun loosely conjunct Venus retrograde. So Venus is working her power in a subtle way, somehow deeper than a normal Venus, a Venus direct would operate. He's not obviously attractive or instantly classically good looking, but he has a charm, a very subtle charm and charisma that makes him very lovable. That's the effect of having a sun conjunct Venus retrograde. It's subtle beauty, subtle charm. So having the sun conjunct Venus, this means that he borrows traits from other Venusian signs, right? Libra and Taurus are the other signs in the zodiac ruled by Venus. This makes him a little bit more charming and even more sociable than a normal Gemini. And having the sun conjunct Venus marker is a good indication that you are popular, especially with women, because Venus rules over the realm of femininity. Now, I think Tom needs this energy in his chart because much like Zendaya, he was born with a Saturn in Aries conjunct the South Node and a corresponding North Node in Libra conjunct Chiron. So again, his comfort zone is not really comfortable because Saturn there tends to bring the energy down. I think he was born with a lot of discipline, with a lot of limits. There must have been a lot of codes that he had to pay attention to, a lot of rules and regulations and responsibilities. He's growing in this lifetime into a more relaxed energy, into a more loving energy, and he is on the lookout for a soulmate, a partner. A North Node in Libra is a guaranteed sign that marriage will feel uncomfortable for you, but you want it with all your heart. So whether he will be able to actually get married to Zendaya, this is going to be a big destiny point for him and for her because they share the same North Node. And it remains to be seen whether they have the guts to step outside of their comfort zone, which is about discipline, loneliness, and hard work, and actually take a big leap of faith into married life and starting their family, because that will require some big courage from both of them, but it will also help them fulfill their destiny. Moreover, Tom also shares the same Neptune, Pluto, Uranus, and Jupiter placements like Zen, but these are outer planetary transits which mark the energies of most of their generational peers born around the same time as Tom and Zen. Yes, I chose to call Zendaya Zen because I find it's really cute. I see that Tom is certainly more temperamental and feisty than Zen is, as she may have a calming and grounding effect on his energy. So they are complementary, which again adds to this beautiful couple. They seem whole together. They seem like twin flames to me. His Mars is conjunct Mercury, and both of these planets are in the sign of Taurus, which is a really interesting placement because compared to Zen, he doesn't have to be so careful about what he says and how he says it, and he may often express his anger mostly through words. He could often have a case of informational dumping, as his brain could go into overload, and he may enjoy talking just for the sake of talking. He could go on for about extensive periods of time on any given topic, or he may feel pushed into it by the men in his life. Tom is actually learning how to become a great conversationalist, but he's learning as well how to organize the information that he shares with other people, because with a North Node in Libra and Gemini energy very strongly placed there, both in his Venus and Sun placements, he can become a little bit of a blabbermouth. He could engage in gossip, or he could just talk people's heads off without saying anything important at all. So he's learning how to balance these things because Taurian energy keeps him grounded. It keeps him stable, sensual, and focused on the body. Both Mars and Mercury in Tom's chart are very earthy and sensual, and they could also be physical expressions of ideas. So he could use his body to express ideas, or he may find other sensual ways of communicating that go beyond simple words. So he can be a really good lover in the bedroom, for example. Instead of telling you how much he loves you, he's going to show you physically. Usually men tend to identify more strongly in their astrology with their Mars placement. So that's why it's important when you are looking into the chart of your crush, or you ask a potential guy that you're interested in, what's your sun sign? But also check for his Mars sign, because the sun represents what a guy's life could revolve around, his conscious identity and what he's striving to achieve in this lifetime. But the Mars placement shows you the type of masculinity he is adopting, what type of man he wants to be, how he wants to come across, how he wants to be seen as a lover, as a friend in the intimate sphere. So for example, Tom could have a strong identification at work with Geminian goals. He wants to be perceived as friendly and progressive. He wants to be fast, quick-witted. He wants to bring a dose of humor in his work. But he could identify more as a lover, as a partner for Zendaya in this Taurus energy. So he's stable, loyal, dependable. He brings home money. He gives her gifts and tries to make her feel safe, which I guess she really appreciates it because of that Saturn in Aries in the second house. And we talked about her physical anxiety of being in this world. The downside to all of this Taurian energy in Tom's chart is that displacement, it can make somebody incredibly stubborn and jealous and kind of thick. And what I mean by that is he may not be so good at comprehending nuances, subtle irony, dark humor, as the mind tends to work slower in an earthy sign like his Mercury in the sign of Taurus. It's like sometimes he needs a couple of triggers or primers or indicators to get a hint. He may not be so good at reading the room as well. Empathy could be on the lower end. And an interesting point I really want to focus on is the fact that Tom has a Lilith in Cancer. So this placement really lights up in an obsessive almost way, in a deep and passionate way, the Venus-Mars conjunction of his fiancée. Because as you know, we talked about the fact that Zen has a Venus-Mars conjunction in Cancer. So this is a pointer of an intense physical attraction. When somebody's Lilith touches upon your Venus and your Mars, it's like they are obsessively wanting you. It's like they can't stop thinking of you. They are like squirming in the bed thinking of you. So I can see that the passion is quite intense, but the problem with Lilith is that it also tends to project negativity onto the partner. So I think that from time to time, he may not even be aware of the fact that he could perceive Zen as this dangerous dark woman. And Tom may sometimes project onto her some negative traits, like she's a bad woman or that she's going to ruin him. Another thing I'm worried about is the fact that they have incompatible moons. And as you guys know, I have this really strong value, and it's something that I checked with the charts of a lot of the clients that I have, that I work with, and also charts of celebrities. Incompatible moons usually lead to divorces and separations. So his moon is in Sagittarius, but it is conjunct Pluto, which kind of adds a scorpionic energy to the way in which he feels things. This is an aspect which can give him a little bit of a maternal complex, and in the worst cases, in the most extreme formation, having a moon in Sagittarius conjunct Pluto can give you a messiah complex. But I don't think this is the case with Tom. He seems very grounded, He's optimistic, enthusiastic, and he enjoys taking risks because of that moon in Sagittarius adventurous energy. And he also sometimes relies on the help of a higher power to intervene on his behalf if things were to ever become too tricky or dark. And this kind of energy of living on a prayer could make Zen feel very unsafe and slightly overwhelmed, to the point where she may need to step in and organize Tom's life or unconsciously control his risk propensities. So I think that this is a situation in which she often may unconsciously mother him, and he could behave like a really adventurous child, like a toddler that kind of smacks his head onto things, and Zendaya needs to pull him back, and it's like, nope, not today, you're not gonna get hit today. So there is a clash there between her natal moon in Taurus, that is very sensual and can be quite passive, quite focused on the little things, on what's in front of her, and his natal moon in Sagittarius that tends to be more adventurous, likes a lot of movement, likes a lot of excitement, enjoys partying. I already feel that by looking into how their planets tick each other or tick off one another, I'm already sliding into the next chapter of this analysis, which is the synastry. So let's get into that. A couple of the aspects of their synastry, I feel like I have already discussed because I jumped a little bit quickly to the things that bring them together, but may also put them apart. But I feel the need to give you a useful recap and to focus a little bit more on the Venus and Mars placements, because as you guys know, having compatible Venus and Mars placements guarantees that there is this pull, this desire to make love to one another, to support each other, to feel affectionate towards one another. So I can see that they are relatively compatible in that attraction. There is a good degree of attraction here. It is mostly harmonious, represented by sextiles, not by conjunctions or anything else. So we see here that Tom has a Venus in Gemini and a Mars in Taurus, while Zen has a Mars in Cancer and a Venus in Cancer. They are relatively compatible, with his Mars touching very sweetly upon her Venus in Cancer. And this means that he may have been the one chasing her in a very slow, steady, careful, reliable way, like a gentleman, While her energy levels and the way she takes action, her Mars in Cancer, could often dampen his spirit, because Mars in Cancer is not really compatible with Venus in Gemini. A Mars in Cancer individual can be a bit too moody and too homebound and shy for a really sociable, outgoing, progressive, funny, fast Venus in Gemini. So her moodiness could dampen his spirits, and he may perceive her as a little bit too passive or too up and down, you know. He tends to be the sociable one who would bring a lot of friends at home, and he can also help her network, while she can really nurture him, give him a sense of security and bring him protection, but it can also stifle his desire to be free and roam around socially, yeah? Keep in mind, he has that moon in Sagittarius there. So their suns are incompatible, but the good part, the saving grace, is that their sun signs are ruled by the same planet, Mercury. Just that one of them is an Earth Mercury and the other one is an Air Mercury. And this feeds into my theory that they may be twin flames because they have the same ruler, so they express themselves in a similar way. It's just one of them is more pragmatic, the other one is more sociable and airy. In addition, their moons are incompatible. And as you guys know, I really am not happy when I see incompatible moons in a synastry chart. I mentioned this before and I'll continue to mention them because to my mind, incompatible moon placements struggle to understand each other or how to relax together, how to fulfill each other's emotional needs. I mean, imagine incompatible moons on a vacation. She's going to want to chill and rest and eat. He's going to want to hit the party club and meet new people and try to express his language skills by speaking to the locals in their native language if they travel to another international location. Incompatible moons show me that they have different diets, different food preferences, different sleep preferences as well. I don't know how they are able to establish physical intimacy and let it grow in time. She may like to sleep with the window open while he may like to sleep more during the day, or God knows what sleep preferences they have, but I can tell for sure that they don't really fit so well. They don't gel. There's no harmony there. There could be frequent conflicts over that. The moon placement also shows us how we make friends and how comfortable we feel relating to people based on our preferences, our likes and our dislikes. I'm not sure about their ascendants because we have a problem here, much like with the Benny Blanco and Selena Gomez analysis. I don't have Tom's ascendant. I don't know what ascendant he is. I did some digging and I couldn't find out. I would venture to say, just to play a little bit with the idea of what his ascendant may be, it could be that he may have a Taurian ascendant or a Cancerian ascendant. And I'm basing this on the fact that his height is not incredible. So he's not a very tall, dark, and looming kind of guy. So I would take out of the equation Sagittarius or Scorpio ascendant. He has a teenager look. He has a vibe that is both youthful, but he enjoys classic, well-tailored clothing. I saw him in a couple of cashmere sweaters, and I think he looks really good. He looks like a gentleman, like a classic British gentleman, you know, but like on the youthful side, not an old-fashioned guy. I would say that having a Taurus ascendant would make him more compatible with Zen, but also would put his Mars and Mercury energy right on top of his ascendant. Either that, or he may have a Cancer ascendant, which is again making him quite compatible with Zen, but it would be that it would have Lilith in Cancer on the ascendant, which kind of would give him this androgynous vibe. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments what ascendant you would attribute him. Coming back to their synastry, the description of their relationship, I can see that they have the same destiny points, like I mentioned before, so they are moving in the same direction in their lives, but the very thing that they are developing into could run the risk of spoiling their love. You know, the negative sides of Libra are people-pleasing, sweeping problems under the rug, keeping things too tight and superficial in love, not being able to express your emotions and over-rationalizing your feelings, and just maintaining a connection for the sake of appearances, for the sake of we need to look good together so that we can make money. And that's my biggest problem with this situation, that they will stay in this connection even when the feelings and the desire has long gone or been consumed, just for the sake of pleasing the public, which is so in love with them. And I can see why, because they are frankly adorable. It will certainly be an interesting period for them, as they will also be undergoing a really tough astrological transit called the Saturn return. It will be conjunct their South Node, and they will do it simultaneously. So going through a Saturn return is difficult for one individual to experience in their lifetime, but when you have a partner going through a Saturn return with you, that could be something quite inspiring, but I'm afraid that they will be so filled with work that their schedules may not leave in for any downtime, love, or intimacy privacy unless they have to draw very strict boundaries between work and us time. So starting from the 25th of May of this year, 2025, up until 2027, the transit of Saturn in Aries will either make or break them. They could either get married and start a family in the next 2 years and slow down a little bit with their cinematic projects, or they could have a pretty shocking public separation while overloading their cinematic projects. Keeping in mind Zen's Pluto in Aquarius transit, okay? Because as I said, she is going through this massive change. They are very similar, and he is clearly more grounded than other Geminian men out there, and she is more forward-thinking, light-hearted, and more tolerant and open-minded than other Virgos out there because of that Aquarius ascendant. But will they last? I guess if no one better comes along, and if Tom makes Zendaya feel safe, and if Zen gives him room to roam and the freedom to be excited, then yes, it could work out. If not, it may actually lead to a pretty passive-aggressive breakup. I just hope that they won't be that kind of couple that does better unmarried than when they get married and then they quickly get a divorce. Because, you know, it can sometimes happen that some couples need to just stay not married and they continue to live happily for a good number of years. To my mind, the ideal relationship is like a perpetual engagement, a never-ending engagement. You just promise that you'll be together with that person and you work each day to maintain that promise. Because once you get married, something weird happens in the psychology of people. It's like they feel like they own the other person, which can sometimes make you behave at your worst, like you can become a monster. But never knowing that you truly own the other person, knowing that they can easily just change their mind and walk away, kind of puts you under this state of excitement and alertness that I constantly need to have this person be with me. I constantly need to schedule in and focus on them and pay attention to them. And that could actually lead to a better quality relationship. But that's just me, you know, I used to be married, I got divorced, and I had some time to reflect on this whole process. So let me know down in the comments, what do you think? Will they stay together? Have you also been through a separation? What is your ideal type of relationship? Do you know about twin flame connections? Do you agree that they may be twin flames? Finally, one small thing that I really had it in my mind throughout the entire analysis and I couldn't put it down. I need to say that they kind of give me the vibe of Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman when they were at the beginning of their love in the 90s and they were this glamorous Hollywood couple. And I feel like in this case, it's kind of like them but with inverted personalities. I see Tom as being represented by Zendaya because like he is the most popular, like, you know, it's kind of weird here because we have two Toms, so please bear with me. But Tom Cruise is kind of like the representation of Zendaya's energy, spirit, and popularity, while Nicole is the representation of Tom's energy, you know? Sorry. I got lost in the Toms there for a minute. Well, my friends, I'm here to let you know that the video is almost over. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember to like this video, comment below, and subscribe. Include yourself in my family. Don't just be an astro voyeur. That's weird and creepy. Don't be like that. Ayo. It's not cool anymore. It's 2025. Come on, show up for yourself. Be brave. Saturn and Aries style. Anyway, cringe comments aside, I do need to remind you that I am a serious person. I am a certified astrologer and I can help you with a personal birth chart analysis, a synastry report if you want me to look into the relationship that you share with a friend, a romantic partner, even with a celebrity. Like if you want me to look at the compatibility between you and Zendaya or Tom Holland, just write me a message and I'll be able to do that for you. I do believe in the fact that we can apply our astrological knowledge to every life scenario, so nothing is weird for me. Just hit me up with your suggestion and we can work something out from an astrological point of view. Okay, let's keep it profesh. All this being said, thank you once again for listening. Till my next video, let the stars guide the way.